Okay, I'm done now with the function of what? Of the cornea. I will go to where? I will go to the second layer of the eye, which is called what? Which is called the choroid. The choroid is the middle layer of what? Of the eye. So what we need to know about the choroid is that the choroid is pigmented, or it has what? A brown pigment. Apart from having a brown pigment, another thing that we need to know about the choroid is that the choroid is richly supplied with the blood vessels. We know very well what is the function of the blood vessels. They do carry the blood that has oxygen as well as the nutrients. And again, I said the choroid is pigmented, meaning that it is darkish in what? In color. Anything that is dark, we know it to do what? To absorb what? The light rays. Okay, now let me quickly talk about the functions of what? Of the choroid. So number one, I said the choroid is pigmented. So now if the choroid is pigmented, that simply means the choroid plays a role in absorbing what? The light rays. Or you can say that the choroid prevents the reflection or the sending back of what? Of the light rays. And I also said that this choroid it's richly supplied with what? With the blood vessels. So now if the choroid is richly supplied with the blood vessels, that simply means that this choroid will supply what? Will supply the retina with what? With oxygen, as well as with what? With the nutrients. Okay, this choroid continues to way to the front, where it forms the following parts. It forms the ciliary body that contains the ciliary muscle, and then again it forms this structure which is called what? The iris. Okay, I will talk about what? I will talk about the ciliary body, the ciliary muscle, as well as the iris. Okay, I'll start first with the ciliary body. The ciliary body and the ciliary muscles, they play a very important role in what is called accommodation. So I'm going to talk about accommodation later on. And then here I said we do have what? We do have the iris. So the iris, it's a structure that is made up of two types of what? Of muscles. It is made up of the circular muscles as well as the radial what? The radial muscles. So now this iris plays a role in regulating what? The size of what? Of the pupil. And then what you need to know is that it is the iris that determines the color of the eyes of a what? Of a person. So later on, I am going to talk about a mechanism which is called pupillary mechanism. So we'll talk about it later on. So now, here let us now focus on the structure of what? Of the eye. And then we do have another layer of the eye which is called what? Which is called the retina. So now the retina is the inner layer of an eye that has what? The photoreceptors. So remember when I started, I showed you the two types of the photoreceptors, which are the rods as well as the cones. So the rods are found where? At the edge of the retina, and then the cones are found where? They are found in the center of the retina. So the rods help us to see during the night, And then they also help us to distinguish between the black and white colors. And then when it comes to the cones are the type of photoreceptors which enable us to see during the day, and then they help us to perceive different colors. We actually have three types of the cones. We do have the red cones, we do have the green cones, we do have the blue cones. So the most important function that you need to know about the retina is that the retina houses the photoreceptors which are able to convert light as a stimulus into what? Into an impulse. Remember that a stimulus will never go to your brain so that interpretation can take place. But what has to go to your brain so that interpretation can take place? It's a what? It's an impulse. So now, the function of a receptor, basically, it is to convert a stimulus into an impulse so that the impulse can be carried to the brain, and then the brain will make an interpretation or will make a sense of what a person is seeing. So now, here on the retina, there are two spots. We do have the yellow spot, which is in line with the lens. So now what must be known about the yellow spot is that the yellow spot contains the cones. So now the function of the yellow spot is that the yellow spot is the center of the aqueous vision, meaning that a clear image of the object that you are looking at is formed where? At the yellow spot. So now this yellow spot contains the cones only. And then, okay, when you go down a little bit, there is another spot here which is found on the retina. So now the spot which is found on the retina is called the blind spot. This blind spot is in line with the optic nerve. So now this spot is called the blind spot because there are no rods and no cones. Sometimes when it happens that you don't see the image of an object, it is because that image of the object that you are looking at has fallen where? Onto the blind spot. So now if the image falls on the blind spot, you won't be able to see anything.